There is a moment, quiet but seismic, where the soul grows tired. Not tired from effort, but tired from pursuit. Tired of chasing what was never meant to be caught. Tired of running after illusions that vanish the moment you reach them. Tired of begging the world to see your worth when your very breath was already proof of it. We are told to chase. Chase the dream. Chase the love. Chase the validation. Chase the success. Chase the life that looks good in pictures. And so we run. From youth, we are trained to be hunters not of truth, but of approval. We are taught to equate motion with meaning, conquest with confidence, chasing with purpose. But what if all this chasing is not ambition, but avoidance? What if the chase is not noble, but neurotic? What if the moment you stop chasing is the moment everything begins to find you? Because there is a law more ancient than the laws of physics, a truth that echoes from the Taoist sages to the Stoic philosophers, to the mystics who walked barefoot through time. What is truly yours cannot be forced, and what must be chased was never meant to be kept. We spend our lives running toward what the world told us we needed, running after people who can't love us, after jobs that drain us, after status that starves us. Running so fast, we forget why we started. Running so hard, we forget who we are. And the chase becomes our identity, until one day we break, not from weakness, but from wisdom. We collapse into stillness, and in that stillness the truth arrives, like a whisper cutting through the noise. What if the reason you're so tired is because you've been chasing things that were never meant to be yours? What if you stopped, not out of defeat, but out of power? What if you stood still long enough for the right things to find you? The right people, the right purpose, the right path. Because when you stop chasing, you start aligning. You stop trying to manipulate outcomes and start listening to the pull of your own soul. You stop living from desperation and start embodying destiny. There is a difference between chasing and choosing. Chasing comes from lack, from fear, from the belief that if you don't run after it, it will disappear. But choosing is rooted in worth. It says, I know what I bring, I know who I am, and I will not bleed to be seen. Carl Jung wrote, what you resist persists, and the chase, it is resistance in motion. It's resistance to the moment, to surrender, to self-trust, because the chaser does not believe they are worthy of receiving. They believe they must earn it, prove it, fight for it. But some of the most powerful shifts in life happen not when you fight harder, but when you finally let go. When you unclench your fists and let the current carry you. When you stop screaming your worth and start living it. Because the universe does not respond to force. It responds to frequency. And when your frequency is frantic, needy, forceful, you attract chaos. But when your frequency is calm, grounded, magnetic, you attract clarity. You draw in what is meant for you, not through pursuit, but through presence, not through effort, but through embodiment. This is not passivity, this is power. The kind of power that does not beg to be noticed. The kind of power that does not chase it, attracts. Because it knows what belongs to me will find me. And what doesn't, I release with grace. But we are terrified of this truth. Because it means letting go of control. It means risking rejection, facing silence, confronting the void. But that void is where you meet yourself, the self you buried beneath all the chasing, the self that does not need applause to feel valid, the self that remembers, I am not a beggar, I am a force. And forces do not chase. They command, they flow. They draw in, they trust. When you stop chasing, you create space. And in that space, your real life begins. A life not dictated by the hunger of the ego, but by the wisdom of the soul. because the ego wants everything now. It is impatient. It is insecure. It is reactive. But the soul moves with patience, with precision, with peace. It does not chase, it allows. It knows that what's real cannot be lost, that love does not need to be earned, that purpose does not scream, it whispers. But to hear that whisper, you must become still, still enough to hear the difference between your conditioning and your calling, still enough to let go of the timelines that were never yours to begin with, still enough to see that you are already enough, right here, right now, without chasing a single thing. This is the shift from striving to receiving, from grasping to allowing, from chasing to becoming. Because when you become what you seek, you no longer need to seek it. You don't chase love. You become love. You don't chase success. You embody excellence. You don't chase validation. You radiate truth. And everything aligned with that frequency begins to find you. Not because you fought for it, but because you matched it, because you rose to meet it. And what does not match you no longer chase. Because you understand, chasing is a trauma response. It is the echo of a childhood where love had to be earned, where worth had to be proven. And now you are breaking that pattern, not with force, but with clarity. You are learning to let go, not with bitterness, but with sovereignty. You are walking away, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself. This is not detachment. This is devotion. Devotion to your truth, your peace, your alignment. And that devotion, it is magnetic. It draws in people who see you without needing you to perform. Opportunities that fit you without forcing. Paths that unfold without pushing. Because what's meant for you was never on the other side of exhaustion. It was always waiting for you to stop running, to stop trying to earn what you already deserve, to stop chasing and start remembering. You were never here to prove. You were here to become. And now you are. And now you are. You are becoming the silence that cannot be manipulated, the calm that unsettles the noisy world, the clarity that exposes everything fake. Because the moment you stop chasing, the mask falls off. Not just from others, but from yourself. You begin to see all the ways you distorted yourself to be accepted, all the times you shape-shifted to avoid abandonment, all the energy you wasted running after people, promises, and positions that never saw the real you. And it hits you hard that none of it was necessary, that everything you thought you had to chase would have shown up on its own had you just been true. This is the reckoning, the burn, the beautiful agony of realizing how long you've betrayed your own stillness. And it hurts. But that hurt, it's holy. Because pain is purification when you stop escaping it. You stop outsourcing your power. You stop negotiating your truth. You stop performing your way through life. Instead, you root, you anchor, you become unshakable. And that is what draws the right things in. Not your hunger, not your pursuit, but your presence. The world is addicted to motion. But motion without meaning is madness. You've seen it. People addicted to chasing, and yet never arriving. Always reaching and never receiving. Why? Because chasing keeps you outside yourself. And what you're truly seeking can only be found within. Stillness is not stagnation. It is not passivity. It is not weakness. Stillness is the choice to no longer leak energy. Stillness is the command that says, I will not beg the world to give me what I've already found in me. And that command changes everything. Because when you hold that frequency, you stop being available for what drains you. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop settling for what feels familiar instead of what feels right. You no longer try to force love. You become love. And that love repels anything unworthy of it. You no longer chase clarity. You embody alignment, and clarity arrives like breath. You no longer run after peace. You cultivate inner stillness, and peace surrounds you like armor. This is what happens when you stop chasing. Life stops punishing you and starts meeting you, because life is not withholding from you. Life is responding to you, to your energy, to your choices, to your expectations. And when you shift from lack to trust, when you release desperation and replace it with devotion, life has no choice but to reconfigure itself around your frequency. But the world won't tell you this, because the world profits from your chase, from your endless scrolling, from your fear of missing out, from your impulse to compare, to compete, to consume. The world wants you hungry, unsettled, always reaching for the next thing and never arriving. But you've stopped feeding that system. You've stepped back. You've said no more. And in that refusal, you've reclaimed something priceless, your center. And from that center, life begins to orbit around you. You don't move for attention. Attention moves toward you. You don't beg for respect. Your energy demands it without a word. You don't chase your purpose. You align with it, and it unfolds naturally. Because purpose is not out there. It is in here. It's not something you find. It's something you uncover when you strip away everything you're not. And once you do that, once you stop chasing and start embodying, you become a lighthouse. Not because you're loud, but because you're rooted. Not because you're the biggest, but because you're the clearest. You radiate truth. And truth has a gravitational pull that no performance can match. So stop chasing love. Be love. Stop chasing opportunity. Become readiness. Stop chasing success. Step into alignment. And everything meant for you will come. Not as a prize, but as a reflection of your inner frequency, of your energetic integrity, of your refusal to betray yourself one more day. This is the power of becoming still, of standing so completely in your truth that anything not aligned falls away without resistance. Because what's meant for you is not just looking for you, it's looking for the real you, not the version you become when you're scared, not the version you project when you want to be liked, but the version that no longer needs to chase, because it remembers who it island. And when you live from that place, everything shifts, not because you forced it, but because you finally aligned with the rhythm of what was always yours. So walk with peace in your step, not haste. Walk with power in your silence, not noise. Walk with grace in your detachment, not coldness but clarity. And let everything that is not aligned fall away, not with bitterness, but with trust, with the knowing that every closed door is redirecting you to what your soul actually came here to receive. You're not missing anything. You're not behind. You're not late. You're just remembering the moment you stop chasing, what's meant for you has already begun its journey toward you. Because what's meant for you doesn't need to be hunted. It doesn't need to be manipulated, begged for, or persuaded. It recognizes you, the real you, the one beneath the roles, the masks, the performance. It knows your soul scent. It vibrates to your frequency, and it cannot miss you unless you keep running, running after what was never yours, running after people whose love is transactional, running after dreams that were planted in you by other people's fears. The chase, it's a distraction, a detour from the divine intelligence that guides everything real. Because what's real does not require resistance. It flows toward you in moments of least effort, in silence, in surrender, in still, grounded clarity. And yet, we fear that stillness, because stillness exposes what the chase hides: the emptiness, the self-abandonment, the anxiety we've mistaken for ambition. But what if that's where the truth lives? What if the silence you avoid is the only place you'll ever hear your soul speak? Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And that is what chasing does. It keeps you unconscious. It keeps you blind to the patterns, to the inner child still begging for love, to the ego still terrified of being seen, and yet terrified of being ignored. But the moment you stop, the moment you truly pause, everything buried beneath the chase comes rushing up. And that is the beginning of liberation, because you cannot receive what's meant for you until you make space for it. And chasing takes up all your space. So now you choose space. You choose breath. You choose to lean back instead of lunge forward. You choose to say, I trust what is real will rise. I trust what is mine will recognize me. I trust that I do not have to die 1,000 little deaths every day just to be enough. You let the universe match your integrity, not your performance, not your neediness, but your grounded, powerful being. And slowly the world responds. The phone calls change, the energy shifts. The people who once needed you to chase them begin to chase your light. But this time, you don't run to meet them. You don't bend. You don't shrink. Because now you know the cost. Now you understand. If it costs you your peace, your power, your self-respect, it was never meant for you. And if it's truly yours, it will rise to meet you at the altitude of your truth. Because you are not here to fight for scraps. You are not here to beg for love. You are not here to prove what you already are. You are here to remember. Remember the energy you came in with before the world taught you to chase. Remember the stillness that once felt safe, the presence that once felt like home, and return to it, not for a moment, not as a practice, but as a way of being. Because in that being, you become a mirror that reflects truth back to the world, a mirror that reveals who is aligned and who is afraid, a mirror that no longer distorts itself to avoid loneliness. Because you've made peace with solitude. You've made peace with waiting. You've made peace with the space between no longer and not yet. And in that space, magic happens. The soul aligns. The path clears. The right doors open. The noise fades. And what's real, what's worthy, what's divine, finds you. Not because you chased it, but because you finally became still enough for it to see you. So breathe. Be here. Let the noise pass. Let the chaos swirl around you calm. You don't need to run. You don't need to hustle. You don't need to beg the universe for what it's already building behind the scenes. Just keep choosing truth. Keep choosing alignment. Keep choosing the power of not chasing. Because once you stop chasing, what's meant for you has no choice but to find you. Because destiny does not respond to desperation. It responds to depth. And when you stop chasing, you drop into that depth, the part of you that's unshaken by rejection, unimpressed by noise, unmoved by the shallow currency of validation. You become a current, not a seeker, a source, not a sponge. You no longer run toward life. Life begins to circle around you, not because you became someone else, but because you finally stayed long enough to become yourself. We live in a culture of constant pursuit. They say, go get it, go prove yourself, go become someone. But the most revolutionary act in a world addicted to becoming is to be, to sit, to breathe, to realize there is nothing to earn and no one to impress, because you already are. And what's meant for who you are only finds you when you stop pretending. Do you see? It's not about attracting what you want. It's about remembering what you are. Because when you remember, your energy changes. You walk into rooms differently. You speak differently. You move through life without grasping, without shrinking, without performing. And people feel that. They don't always understand it, but they feel it. They sense the stability in your silence, the power in your restraint, the confidence in your calm, because true power does not chase. It radiates, and radiance pulls everything that's aligned into its orbit effortlessly. When you chase, you distort your signal. You send the universe a message that says, I am not whole yet, I need more, I am not enough. But when you stop, when you let the silence speak for you, you broadcast something different, something rare, something sacred. You say, I know who I am. End quote. I trust what's mine. I am willing to wait. I am willing to lose what's not real. I am willing to be misunderstood if it means I stay loyal to my soul. And that energy, that rare frequency of self-trust, it changes everything. It calls in people who don't need you to chase. It invites in opportunities that don't require you to perform. It draws in alignment that doesn't demand self-abandonment. Because you are no longer trying to get the life you want. You are becoming the version of you who naturally receives it. And that shift is the beginning of true freedom, no longer tethered to outcomes, no longer defined by metrics, no longer seduced by shiny things that cost your peace. You see through it now, the illusion, the trap, the endless race that leads nowhere. And you step off the track, not because you're giving up, but because you finally realize you were running in the wrong direction. You weren't here to chase love. You were here to become it. You weren't here to chase purpose. You were here to embody truth. You weren't here to chase validation. You were here to remember your worth. And when you remember, you stop running. You stop exhausting your nervous system in relationships that only survive when you're performing. You stop pouring your energy into careers that reward you for abandoning your creativity. You stop investing in futures that require you to betray your present. Because now, you know, peace is the new status. Stillness is the new strategy. Alignment is the new success. And the only thing you have to chase is the moment you stop believing that you had to chase anything at all. Because right now, in this breath, in this silence, in this deep exhale of everything falls, you've arrived. You've arrived back into yourself, into the you that no longer performs for love, no longer rushes to fill the void, no longer apologizes for needing stillness instead of noise. And from that place, what's meant for you begins to unfold, quietly, naturally, unmistakably, not with a bang, but with a quiet knowing, a click, a resonance, a coming home. So breathe, stay here, and let it come. Not because you chased it, but because you finally stopped running. And now you understand the most sacred secret of all. You were never chasing the thing. You were chasing the feeling you thought it would give you. Love, you were chasing the feeling of being seen, held, chosen. But when you stop chasing love and become love, that feeling radiates from within you endlessly. Success, you were chasing the feeling of being enough. But when you stop chasing success and embody worth, you no longer need the world's applause to feel complete. Peace, you were chasing the absence of pain. But when you stop running from discomfort and make peace with yourself, you realize peace was never out there. It was you, waiting to be remembered. Everything you've ever chased was never outside of you. It was a mirror, a projection, a symbol of something forgotten, not missing. And now, in this stillness, in this raw and honest moment of non-doing, you've remembered. You've remembered the feeling that no person, no position, no possession could ever give you, because it was never about acquiring. It was about allowing yourself to be as you are, to breathe as you are, to walk into every room as you are, without grasping, performing, shrinking, or apologizing. This is it. This is the arrival. Not to a destination, but to your own presence. The calm is here. The clarity is here. The next step will come, it always does. But you will not run to meet it. You will let it rise to meet you, because you've stopped chasing. And now, what's meant for you has already begun to find its way. Not in chaos, not in noise, but in rhythm, in silence, in soul. You have become the lighthouse, the magnetic force, the immovable presence in a world desperate for direction. You are not the chaser anymore. You are the chosen. And what's meant for you, it remembers you. It's always remembered you. It just needed you to be still long enough to recognize yourself. So stay still, stay true, and let it find you. They tell you you're broken, that something inside of you isn't working right, that your sadness is a malfunction, a chemical misfire, an error in your wiring. But what if the real malfunction is the world? What if your depression is not a sign of weakness, but a flicker of intelligence in a sea of delusion? What if the ache in your chest is not a problem to be solved, but a sacred signal, a whisper from your soul that you're beginning to see too clearly what everyone else is too terrified to confront? The numbness, the exhaustion, the hollow stare into nothingness. These are not symptoms of your failure. They are symptoms of your awakening. Because in a world that glorifies narcissism, rewards conformity, punishes authenticity, and anesthetizes pain with pills and screens, it is not sanity to feel fine. It is sanity to feel disturbed. You are not broken. You are just more awake than they expected you to be. Look around. Really look. This world, this so-called civilization, is a circus of contradictions. They teach obedience and call it education. They build prisons and call them schools. They sell poison and call it food. They parade lies across screens and call it news. They worship money and call it progress. And when your soul begins to scream from the hollowness of it all, they call you depressed. They don't want you healed. They want you sedated. Because a numb population is easy to control. A confused mind is easy to market to. An exhausted heart is too tired to resist. And so they create a reality where to be mentally healthy is to be spiritually dead. But some part of you, the part that feels like it's breaking, is not breaking at all. It's breaking free. You're shedding illusions. You're grieving false promises. You're mourning the death of a world you were told was real but never was. You are not mentally ill. You are spiritually starved. And your suffering is sacred. Carl Jung once said, "The sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being." And yet most people have never even looked into that darkness, let alone dared to light a fire there. But you have. You are. That's why you feel what you feel. You are the outlier, the rebel soul, the quiet warrior who chose the red pill in a world addicted to the blue. They gave you labels: depression, anxiety, disorder. But those are just names they slap on pain they don't want to understand. Your sadness is not a glitch. It's a response to emptiness disguised as success, to manipulation dressed up as culture, to lives spent in quiet desperation, all the while pretending it's fine. Your pain is not the problem. Your pain is the portal, a gateway to something real, something raw, something human. But the world has become so inhuman, so artificial, so performative, that anything real now looks like rebellion. And maybe that's what you are. Not a failure of the system, but the system's natural opponent, a force of nature rising against a machine, the soul's immune response to a sick civilization. You weren't made to sit in cubicles under fluorescent lights, trading time for survival. You weren't born to scroll mindlessly through curated illusions, comparing your reality to someone else's highlight reel. You weren't designed to swallow fake food, fake news, fake dreams, and then wonder why your spirit can't breathe. You were born for something deeper, wilder, more sacred. And that yearning, you feel that low hum of dissatisfaction that never leaves you. That's not depression. That's your soul remembering what it came here for. It came to feel deeply, to love fiercely, to create wildly, to live truthfully, to burn brightly. But this world fears bright lights because they expose shadows. And so they'll try to dim you, to shame you, to pathologize your pain, to convince you that your discontent means you're sick instead of seeing that it means you're sane. But don't let them rewrite your truth. Don't let them convince you to doubt your own soul, because beneath your depression is a truth too raw to be numbed, a clarity too pure to be blurred, a fire too sacred to be extinguished. You are not here to fit in. You are here to wake up. You are not here to numb out. You are here to feel. You are not here to perform normal. You are here to live fully. And yes, it will hurt, because awakening always begins in darkness, like a seed splitting open in the soil, like a scream erupting from a silenced mouth, like a thunderstorm breaking the calm of a stagnant sky. But that pain is birth pain, the birth of a new self, a new vision, a new way of being in a world that has lost its way. And that's why you're here, to become what this world forgot, to remember what it denied, to embody what it fears, to be the antidote, to hold the mirror, to walk through the fire and come out made of it. Not burned, forged, not broken, reborn. The truth is, most people are not alive. They are animated, programmed, conditioned to obey, to consume, to seek approval, to avoid discomfort, to follow paths they never chose. And they call this living. But you were not built for shallow waters. You feel too much, think too deeply, care too intensely, hurt too easily, because you were made for the ocean, for the storm, for the depths. And that's why the surface bores you, drains you, depresses you. You are not broken for feeling that. You are rare, and rarity is always misunderstood. So let them misunderstand. Let them mock, label, and dismiss. Because you're not here to be understood. You're here to understand, to descend into the labyrinth of your soul, to face the minotaur of your conditioning, to break the chains of inherited madness, to rise from the ashes of illusions. You are not lost. You are on a path most have never dared to walk. The path of psyphoria, where psychological suffering becomes the gateway to spiritual clarity, where what feels like despair is actually the unraveling of false selves, where the ego shatters so the soul can emerge. And yes, it's lonely, excruciatingly lonely, because awakening isolates you. You begin to see through the games, the masks, the empty words, the endless chase. You watch as others cling to comfort while you're being stripped to your core. But this stripping is sacred. It is the death before the rebirth, the cocoon before the flight, the silence before the roar. And that roar is coming. But first, you must endure the storm. You must sit with the chaos. You must hold space for the parts of you that have been silenced, shamed, suppressed. You must listen not to the noise of the world, but to the whispers of your soul. It speaks not in words, but in longings, in aches, in the quiet knowing that you are meant for more. Not more possessions, more presence, not more followers, more freedom, not more distractions, more depth. And to reclaim that depth, you must go inward. You must turn away from the circus and face the cathedral within. You must confront the madness not just of the world, but of your own mind. Because the world's insanity lives inside us, in the stories we were told, in the roles we were assigned, in the beliefs we inherited without question. And now you are questioning. That's why it hurts. Because questioning is dangerous. It threatens a lie. It disturbs the status quo. It ignites revolution. But this is not a revolution of violence. It is a revolution of vision, of seeing through the illusions, of saying no to the madness, of choosing to live by soul, not script. And once you taste that kind of living raw, real, unfiltered, there's no going back. You can no longer pretend that numbness is normal, that mediocrity is success, that fitting in is worth your fire, because you've glimpsed something deeper, a clarity that cannot be unseen. And now you are becoming dangerous, not because you threaten others, but because you cannot be controlled. You are becoming sovereign. You are reclaiming your mind. You are remembering who you are, not the version they programmed, but the essence you were born with, the wild truth at your core, the stillness behind the storm, the soul behind the mask. And from this place, depression begins to dissolve, not because the world has changed, but because you have. Because you've stopped drinking its poison and calling it medicine. Because you've stopped asking the insane to validate your sanity. Because you've stopped waiting for permission to be whole. You have chosen truth over comfort, integrity over approval, depth over distraction. And that choice is what sets you free. And that freedom, it is not the kind they sell you in slogans and elections. It is not the freedom of consumption or indulgence or even escape. It is the freedom to see clearly through the games, to see through the seductions of ego and illusion, to see what people are actually saying behind their words, what they're hiding behind their smiles, what they're chasing behind their goals. You begin to see the quiet desperation underneath the laughter, the emptiness inside their achievements, the hunger behind their pride. You begin to see that most people are not living. They are bargaining, trading authenticity for acceptance, trading purpose for praise, trading soul for survival. And now that your eyes are open, you cannot unsee it. This is the curse of clarity, but also the gift. Because when you stop lying to yourself, you stop needing others to validate your lies. When you stop betraying your soul, you stop attracting people who thrive on that betrayal. When you stop pretending, you start becoming. And becoming is terrifying, because it means letting everything fall away, the masks, the roles, the expectations. It means watching your old self die without knowing who the new one will be. But that space, that terrifying, sacred emptiness is where you meet your truth. And once you meet your truth, you begin to heal. Not in the way they told you healing would look neat, linear, hashtag worthy, but in the way fire heals a forest, in the way collapse makes space for rebirth, in the way breakdowns shatter everything falls, so only the real can remain. And the real you is not depressed. The real you is just done pretending to care about things that drain you, done pretending to be who the world expects you to be, done pretending that everything is okay when your soul is screaming otherwise. That scream, listen to it. It is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is not madness, it is memory. The memory of who you were before the world told you who to be. And reclaiming that memory, that is your revolution. Because once you remember, you become dangerous to the systems that rely on your amnesia. You become immune to the manipulations that once enslaved you. You no longer buy into the game, because you see it for what it is, a beautiful lie designed to keep you small, distracted, obedient. But you are not here to be small. You are not here to be liked, followed, managed, sedated. You are here to rise, not in the way they measure rising through money, fame, influence, but in the way your soul rises in depth, in presence, in sovereignty. And that rising, it begins in silence, in solitude, in the dark nights where you question everything. It begins when you stop blaming the world for your pain and start using that pain as fuel, fuel to build something real, fuel to live by your own rhythm, your own code, your own sacred defiance. because there is a kind of strength that no gym can build, a kind of intelligence no degree can teach, a kind of clarity no guru can give you. It is the strength born from walking through your own hell and coming out with your soul intact. The intelligence that comes from trusting your own perception over the noise of the world. The clarity that comes when you choose truth, even when it costs you everything false. And that's what you're doing now. You're stripping away everything that's not real. The titles, the masks, the performances. You are not your resume. You are not your trauma. You are not your follower count. You are what remains when all of that burns. And what remains is power. Not power over others, but power over your own mind. And when you master that, you become untouchable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get clearer. Clear enough to see through manipulation. Clear enough to walk away from what drains you. Clear enough to choose solitude over shallow connection. Clear enough to stop chasing approval and start following your own fire. And that fire, it will terrify people, because most have extinguished theirs long ago. Most have traded their fire for comfort, for acceptance, for the illusion of safety. But you chose to keep yours alive, even when it burned you, even when it left you alone, even when it made you question everything. And now, that fire is transforming you from the inside out, burning away what is false, revealing what is eternal. Because underneath the depression, beneath the numbness and despair, there is something untouched, something pure, your essence, your original blueprint. Before the world told you what to value, what to chase, what to suppress, that essence is still there, waiting, waiting for you to stop running, waiting for you to stop hiding behind distractions, waiting for you to stop calling your pain a problem. Because your pain was never the enemy. Your pain was the invitation to return to yourself, to remember the ancient truth. You are not here to be normal. You are here to be true. You are not here to play a role. You are here to live a reality deeper than the script. You are not here to win the game. You are here to wake up from it. And that awakening it starts when you stop pathologizing your pain and start honoring it. When you stop numbing your symptoms and start listening to them, because every ache is an oracle. Every fear is a frontier. Every tear is a testimony that your soul still feels, still cares, still remembers. Let the world call it depression. You'll know it as your resurrection. And in that resurrection, something ancient reawakens, something primal, something untamed, something the world tried to bury beneath decades of conditioning and control. Your will, not the shallow will to grind, to hustle, to achieve, but the deep will, the sovereign force that says, I will no longer betray myself just to belong. I will no longer shrink to fit into cages built for weaker minds. I will no longer apologize for seeing what others are too afraid to look at. This is not rebellion, this is remembrance. A remembering of who you were before the world taught you how to fear, before they taught you to sit still, to raise your hand, to color inside the lines, before they made you afraid of your own voice, because from the moment you were born, they began the war against your authenticity, not out of malice, but out of fear. The fear that if you became too real, too powerful, too awake, you would become impossible to control. So they trained you to behave. They gave you gold stars for obedience, punishments for wildness. They told you to smile even when it hurt, to be polite even when you wanted to scream, to be good even when it meant betraying your truth. And now that betrayal lives in your body, as tension, as fatigue, as depression. But depression is not the disease. It is the symptom of a soul that has been silenced too long. And you You are done being silent. You are done pretending that the emperor is wearing clothes. Done pretending that this system makes sense. Done pretending that waking up to a job you hate, commuting through traffic you despise, to perform a task that drains your soul is somehow a life well lived. Because it's not. It is slow spiritual suicide. And your soul knows it. That's why you feel empty after parties, after scrolling, after small talk. That's why achievement tastes like ash in your mouth. That's why the noise of the world makes you want to scream into a void. You are not depressed. You are detoxing from lies, from illusions, from the soul-numbing hypnosis that says, this is all their island. But you've glimpsed the truth now. You've seen behind the curtain. And once you see, you cannot unsee. You cannot go back to pretending. You cannot unknow your knowing. You must walk forward, through the fire, through the grief, through the abyss. Because what's waiting on the other side is not happiness. It's not pleasure. It's not comfort. It's clarity. And clarity is worth every ounce of pain. Because clarity gives you power. Not the power to dominate, but the power to discern, to know what to walk toward, and what to walk away from, to know who speaks truth and who just speaks loud, to know what is sacred and what is merely shiny. And in that knowing, you begin to build a new life, not from reaction, not from trauma, not from scarcity, but from truth, from presence, from depth. And that life will not look like anyone else's, because it is yours, not curated, not copied, not pre-approved, but forged in solitude, in silence, in struggle, forged by looking inward when the world said to look outward, forged by choosing wholeness over popularity, forged by sitting with your darkness until it revealed your light. This is how real transformation happens, not in seminars, not in affirmations, not in manifesting mood boards, but in the messy, brutal, beautiful process of unbecoming everything you were never meant to be. It is death, and it is birth, the death of the false self, the birth of the true one. And you must mourn. You must grieve the roles you outgrew, the beliefs you let go, the people who could not walk with you into this new chapter. Because clarity costs. It costs comfort. It costs company. It costs illusion. But what it gives you is everything. Your mind, unshackled. Your heart, unhardened. Your path, unmistakable. And that path, it is narrow. Few will walk it with you. Most will not understand. They will call you too sensitive, too intense, too much. Let them, because too much is what the world needs now. Too much truth, too much presence, too much soul. Let others settle for numbness. You choose aliveness. Let others play the game. You choose freedom. Let others chase approval. You choose integrity. Because once you realize that your depression was never a flaw, but a flare, a signal, fire in the darkness, everything changes. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what have I been tolerating that goes against my soul? You stop chasing fixes and start embodying freedom. The freedom to think, to feel, to walk away, to say no. To say yes only when your whole being aligns. And yes, this will cost you the world you knew, but it will give you the world you were made for. Not a world built by algorithms and ad campaigns, but a world built from within. A world where your joy is sacred. Your boundaries are law. Your intuition is oracle. And your presence, your awakened, embodied presence, is your greatest act of defiance. Because in a world that profits from your insecurity, your healing is a revolution. In a world that thrives on your silence, your voice is a rebellion. In a world that feeds on fear, your inner peace is a threat. And make no mistake, you are a threat now. Not because you harm, but because you see. And once you see clearly, you cannot be controlled. You cannot be coerced. You cannot be convinced to betray yourself again. Because you know the cost. You've lived it. And now you've chosen something higher. Not happiness, not perfection, not constant positivity, but truth. And truth will set you free. But first it will shatter you. Let it shatter you. Let it strip you bare. Let it burn through every lie you've been told and every lie you've told yourself just to survive. Let the old identity collapse. The one built from fear, approval seeking, performance, and pretense. Let it fall, because you cannot carry it where you're going. You're stepping into a different realm now, not a place, but a way of being. A place where your worth is not measured by productivity, where your value isn't determined by how well you perform for a broken culture, where your mind is not a battlefield, but a sanctuary, where your pain is not pathology, but prophecy. Because your depression, your exhaustion, your aching sense that something is deeply wrong, it was never a malfunction. It was a mirror showing you what the world wouldn't, a mirror forcing you to confront the cost of unconscious living. And now that you've seen it, you are no longer asleep. You are no longer obedient. You are no longer afraid of losing what was never real to begin with. You are becoming the very thing this world fears most. A human being who has remembered their soul. Because a soul that remembers cannot be owned, cannot be bought, cannot be broken. You may bend, you may bleed, you may walk alone, but you will not betray yourself again. Because you have paid the price of pretending. And now, you choose truth, even if it terrifies you. You choose depth, even if it means digging through your own shadows. You choose purpose, even if it costs you everything artificial. And in that choice, you become unshakable. Because once you've faced the abyss and lived, there is nothing this world can do to you. It can reject you. It can mock you. It can exile you. But it cannot touch you. Because you've gone deeper than fear. Deeper than the need to be liked. Deeper than the games of the ego. You have reclaimed your life from the machinery of madness. You have stared into the mirror and chosen to remember, to feel, to live. So now stand up, not with arrogance, but with the quiet power of someone who no longer runs from themselves. Stand up with the spine of a soul that's been tempered in fire, with the eyes of someone who sees clearly and still chooses love, with the heart of someone who has been broken and did not close. This is your becoming. This is your return, not to who you were before the pain, but to who you are because of it. The wise one, the real one, the one who has walked through the shadowlands of despair and emerged sovereign, not fixed, not perfect, but awake, and in a world built on delusion that is the most radical thing you can be. So remember this, you're not depressed, you're remembering, you're not broken, you're breaking free. And the world will not understand that. But that's okay, because you're not here to be understood. You're here to be true. So walk on steady, wild, and unafraid. The world doesn't need more smiles hiding pain. It needs more souls who refuse to lie. And you are one of them now. So let your presence be a disruption. Let your clarity be contagious. Let your stillness speak louder than their noise. And above all, never apologize for the fire in your chest. It is not too much. It is exactly what this world forgot. You are not depressed. You are waking up in an insane world. And now you are becoming the cure.